Right now, we're going to go into chapter 15 of Cartel Wives. Last week, we had weddings on Cartel Wives, 13 and 14. Weddings that got shut down, weddings that got extorted, all of the above, but everybody got married. Everybody was happy. I don't know if they were both pregnant at the time, but I know Val was pregnant. Here we go. Chapter 15. No matter what the book says, the book is lying. We on chapter 15.
Chapter 13. Margarito Sr.
Uh-oh.
Olivia. My pregnancy had been totally healthy and uneventful, but in Mexico, doctors and hospitals will do anything to make more money, so they'd persuaded me to have a C-section. Junior and I had scheduled the birth of our baby for December 19th, 2005, and we were so excited that we went nuts getting ready for it. I bought Junior a Louis Vuitton backpack to use as a diaper bag, matching the man bag he used to carry all his cell phones. In my suitcase, I packed a Burberry sleeper and matching hat, bib, and blankie. The night before we left for the hospital, Junior asked our housekeeper to wash all of my sheets and blankets so they smelled like Downy and to clean the baby's things with Dreft. He wanted to make sure we were comfortable. Everything surrounding Brandon's birth was our happiest time, and as Junior looked me in the eyes, he reminded me why he fell in love with me and how much he loved me. As the nurses laid our beautiful boy on my chest, we were overwhelmed with joy. He looks like an angel sent from God, I thought, and when Junior picked up Brandon and held him in his arms, I realized. Junior has the sweetest, gentlest soul, and he's given me my beautiful son. In return, I've given him the gift of knowing what a beautiful family is. Right at that moment, I finally let go. With Junior, I didn't need to guard my heart. I trusted him, and I stopped caring about his job. I stopped wanting to give him a hard time. He'll change when the time is right, I thought. He's given me his word, and I believe him. A few days later, we were home, and it was time to celebrate Christmas as a family.
Mia. Christmas Eve was 5 days after Brandon was born, but Olivia still wanted to host a big family dinner. She and Junior had put up a massive tree and placed white lights all over.
Val, enough with the parties. Enough with the big weddings and the parties, all right? Stop it. Quiet around the fire, family. That's it. Shout out, Think Like a Kingpin in the chat. He said, I hope they call you to participate in the documentary. That'd be nice. That would be nice. I highly doubt it, though. If Charlie listens to me, especially after she hears this episode, she'll be like, nah.
Over their house, which lit up the whole block. They'd wrapped all their presents and decorated every inch of their place with something Christmassy. It was my first Christmas as a newlywed, and honestly, Peter and I would have stayed in bed all day if we could have. But Olivia had gone all out, and I knew she'd make it the best Christmas ever.
Olivia. Family gatherings are a huge deal in my family, especially to my mom. She has 7 brothers and sisters, and every year, she cooks for all of them and invites them, their kids, and their grandkids over. Honestly, I don't remember a holiday without at least 50 people in our house. Mom still takes photos at all our get-togethers and creates albums from them, which she gives to each of us at Christmas. I sometimes tease her saying, "You didn't pick the prettiest pictures of me," but I'm kidding. I love and admire her so much for how she holds her family together, how she shows us what family is all about, and I've always wanted to do the same in my home. Especially on my first Christmas with my brand new son. I'd bought everything we needed for dinner, then lined up the ingredients in rows in the refrigerator and pantry. We were about to sit down to an American feast of turkey, ham, potato salad, yams, mashed potatoes and gravy, and 6 different desserts. After 2 weddings that year, this was our first official Christmas as the Flores family, and I wanted it to be the happiest we'd ever remember. No one was in jail. No one had been kidnapped in months, and there was nothing to do but celebrate the season.
Hey, that's all you could ask for.
Mia. Peter and I were holding Brandon every second he wasn't eating. And Junior's girls, Samantha and Sasha, kept staring at him and saying he looks like a doll. Everyone was there. Xavier, Adrian, and Daniela, Daniela's son and daughter, all of Junior and Peter's sisters and their families. And of course, there were my in-laws, who in many ways I was still learning to understand. My father-in-law was so traditional. He thinks a wife should be home, barefoot, pregnant, and cooking. So he was beyond happy Liv had been prepping dinner all night and cooking all day, even though she'd had a C-section less than a week before.
Damn.
He kept talking about it, and pretty quickly, it got irritating. I had to say something. She's done a lot more in her life than just cook, you know. But she's roasting a turkey when she can hardly stand. Olivia had produced records, had a kid when she was 15, and lived through a husband getting murdered. And yet cooking that damn dinner was the most impressive thing she'd ever done.
Amongst other things. I mean, the old man, I don't know if you knew, but you gotta give her the credit. She was locked up and she did some shit. More than just have a baby, I guess.
So much of the time I thought my father-in-law was completely inappropriate, and he could drive anyone crazy. He wasn't at all like my dad, who was genuinely caring and always warm. I wasn't sure I'd ever really feel comfortable with him, but like everything in Peter's world, I was going to accept him because I loved my husband. I'd started to realize my father-in-law was smart, though. I knew where Peter got his brains from. He didn't use his intelligence for the right things, but he could be impressive. I remember meeting with a real estate agent in Guadalajara when I first moved there. Senor had his little notebook out, something he always carried, writing down everything he wanted to know about real estate. He asked, "So, you might list this property at a low price in order to start a bidding war?" "Sí, senor." Then my father-in-law opened up his notebook and took notes. He hadn't made it through middle school, but no matter who he was talking to, he wanted to learn from them. He wasn't affectionate, but he had a lot of good qualities.
There's those people, man. Can't put a book in front of them. They ain't trying to hear it with a book. They ain't trying to hear it with a teacher. But they'll pick it up from experience. Pick up everything from experience. People don't even know they giving them game, but they giving them game. Shout out P.I. Black. He said she been through more than a lot of dudes in the hood. Yeah. And was all right with going to cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, she cooking, bro. But again, he's an old-fashioned dude. That was the feat that was amazing to him. That was, you know what I'm saying? She just pushed the baby out. Now she's over there making this turkey happen. You know what I mean? He had a low line for her to hit. You know what I mean?
He just happened to be in the wrong business, and he never failed to make bad decisions.
Olivia, my father-in-law was never careful. He lived in this little town in the middle of nowhere, and he had a beautiful ranch with waterfalls, 10 horses, and all kinds of roosters for cockfights. He was obviously the richest guy for miles, yet he refused to have security. "No one's going to touch me here," he'd say. "I know everyone." Gambling was his thing. It made him feel alive, and he loved flashing his money around. In San Juan, there was this little place in the center of town where people would go play cards and dominoes, and he'd walk in with $50,000 in cash. Then on weekends, he'd go to the horse races and bet $100,000 to $200,000 easy, and not care if he lost it. "You can't do that," Peter and Junior would say, "and you can't go out alone. Take security, take a friend, just protect yourself." But he didn't listen. He wanted to do what he wanted to do, and no one could tell him otherwise.
Mia, the day after Christmas, my father-in-law left Guadalajara to go home to San Juan. It was commonly known that he had another family there, a second wife and 3 little kids, but none of us ever talked about it openly.
Oh.
Not a single person in the family or town approved of it, but we all just didn't want to discuss it. Sometimes before bed, though, Peter would begin to talk about it out of nowhere. "Why does he do this to my mom?" he'd ask. I had no answer. I wondered the same thing myself.
That's a wrinkle we ain't heard before. Now, I heard a rumor about it. Somebody that was telling me about the book, that they had already read the book. They were like, yeah, there's things in the other thing that we don't know about, that we didn't hear about. I wonder if that had something to do with him going back.
I had no answer. I wondered the same thing myself. He and my mother-in-law, Amelia, had been married since she was just a teenager. And oh my God, did they fight about it when it came up. My father-in-law would be gone for a night or two, staying with his other family, and when he'd come shuffling in with his walker, my sweet mother-in-law would become another person and let him have it.
Okay.
She'd scream, "Where were you?" "I was at the gambling hall." She'd rail at him. He'd ignore her.
Okay, she wasn't no punk. She didn't just quietly, say, hey, it is what it is. She accepted a lot of other things. She knew what she had, who she had. That was her family. It's what it was. To stay out of it, right? But when it came to this, she wasn't going to turn a blind eye, so she wasn't no punk.
And then an hour later, she'd come out of her room, make him breakfast, iron his clothes, and take him shopping.
It is what it is.
Every time I'd see them together, I'd think, why does he do this shit? And why does she put up with it?
Olivia. I hated that he hurt my mother-in-law. She was a wonderful woman. The kind of mother I wanted to be. Junior and Peter worked all night, so sometimes we'd all go to her house at 3 a.m., and she'd wake up with a smile on her face and cook us a full 5-course meal like it was 3 in the afternoon. She was always so warm and loving. Watching her really helped me soften up. But not when it came to my father-in-law's other family, and especially not when he walked out the day after Christmas to be with them. I told him exactly how I felt, and trust me, I had no filter.
He probably didn't care.
Mia. Not long after my father-in-law left, Olivia was resting, and Peter and I were sitting with Junior, who was doting on Brandon. I was amazed at what a great father he'd become instantly, effortlessly. Then, one of Peter's phones rang, and when he answered it and started talking, he looked grim. "Oh no, I can't believe it." "What happened?" asked Junior. "Dad's been kidnapped." He was walking through town with his 3-year-old son and someone grabbed them both.
Oh, no.
Fuck, Junior said. It was only a matter of time. We told him not to go back to San Juan alone. It was true. Walking around flashing money with no security, you might as well have a target on your chest. "We have to leave now," said Peter. "Whoever got them might be after us, too."
Olivia. It had taken me a month to make sure Brendan's nursery was perfect before he was born. And when we brought him home from the hospital, our home felt so warm. But in our family, you couldn't have something happy occur without some sort of tragedy involved. In Mexico, we knew we might have to give up everything and leave at any given moment, so I taught myself to detach and stop caring about material things.
Got to.
Our safety was our #1 priority, and our family always had to come first. When Peter and Junior said we had to leave the house, all I could think about was my father-in-law and his son tied up God knows where.
Wildin'.
It was devastating to me.
Not just the old man and a 3-year-old. Wildin'. Like she said, it's been a couple of months and nobody got kidnapped. Like, stranger than fiction, man.
To all of us, and I knew we had no other choice. We decided we'd check into a hotel. Unfortunately, since it was Christmas time, everything was booked, so we ended up at this cheap motel a few miles away. The whole gang piled into a few rooms. My mother-in-law, Junior and Pete's sister, Xavier, Junior's girls, Peter's daughter, Sophia, Adrian, Daniela and their kids, Peter and Mia, and me, Junior, and our less than 1-week-old baby. I'm a germaphobe, to the point that I used to make our housekeepers clean the bottom of our shoes with Clorox every day. And I remember looking around that nasty place thinking, oh my God, I can't be here. This hotel is not sterile enough for my newborn baby.
Mia. We huddled up in that Fleabag hotel for days, all crowded together. Peter was a wreck, mostly because he'd lived through 2 kidnappings and knew what these monsters were capable of.
Right.
He'd pace around the room, wringing his hands, looking like he was putting his thoughts together but going completely crazy at the same time. "What kind of people would kidnap a baby?" he'd say.
Dirtbags.
I'd just shake my head. "I don't know, Peter, but all we can do is wait." Around the 2nd day, one of the kidnappers called Peter. Peter had designated a particular phone for them, with a dedicated line. It was a silver flip phone with caller ID on it, pretty basic for 2005, and when that thing lit up that morning, and once every day after that, my stomach would start to hurt. We were convinced that the baby and my father-in-law were dead. Peter was on the call for a few minutes, with a full-on serious look that I'd seen a million times before. He looked 24, going on 60. When he finally got off, he didn't seem relieved, even though he had good news. "They're alive," he said. "Thank God," I said. "Why don't you look happy?" "The kidnapper wants $6.5 million.
Damn.
He sounds like he does this for a living."
As does everybody else that came and hit y'all for some money, from what it seemed like. That was Saul's living. Them federales. These guys, 6.5.
I was confused. Why does that matter? "Because this is not just some random rich guy getting grabbed off the street for a ransom. The kidnapper's a professional. He knows what he's doing, and he wants me to be afraid of him. To tell you the truth, I am." Junior was all business, basically ignoring his brother's feelings. "What else?" "He wants me to refer to him as Comandante. He wants to be the boss, to be in total control. And he keeps calling whoever ordered the kidnapping the old man." "The old man?" Junior kept pushing. "Anyway, anything else?"
Oh, no.
Peter paused. "They say they're going to dismember the baby if we don't act fast."
Damn. Who's the old man, y'all? Tell me in the chat. I know y'all know who the old man. There's only one old man it could be. Damn. He said, "Call me Comandante. Call me El Commendatore. We want 6.5, and we're going to do something crazy to this baby." Wildin'. Pinche Tío Lupe, man. Tío Lupe is wildin' all over again. Damn. Chapo it was already Chapo's business to take care of take care of Tío Lupe, man, because this is crazy. He over here talking about what he's going to do to babies.
I thought I was going to throw up right then.
And Lupe's supposed to be like a brother to him. Lupe's like his uncle. But this is the 2nd time. Lupe already snatched up Peter and held Peter. This is how they got to Chapo. They had to go to Chapo to rescue Peter from Lupe. Lupe has been on this thing. So boom, he had to give up Peter. And in the same process, he looked bad to Chapo because Chapo knows he's lying now. And still in the mix of all that, he want to come snatch up the father. That's how deep his vendetta go. And he still owed Chapo. Chapo probably told him, "Listen, brother, I know what you did, but you still here, but I need that money." You know what I'm saying? Which is probably what he's doing again. He's trying to get 6.5 to finish up that debt. And he's using his familia, his friends. I think the Lupe connection comes through the father, so that makes it, not that it's even worse, because you already snatched up my son one time. Pete was genuinely, in the story, genuinely worried about this dude when he got snatched because he thought they snatched him too. He didn't know that dude snatched him. Also in the chat said, "Who needs enemies with family like that?" Absolutely. PR Black said that's the first person he asked about. First person Peter asked about, "How's Lupe?" And then this guy is just, he's their villain, man. He's the villain of like the first act of their movie and shit.
I didn't know that people actually did things like that. Torturing a child? In my world, that stuff didn't happen. In 2005, there weren't movies about cartels, so I hadn't heard of all of the awful things they'd do before they'd kill people. I'd never considered that anyone, anywhere, would even think about cutting up a child.
Demonetization.
Olivia, at that second, my world came crashing down again.
Yeah, I bet.
I'd dreamed of stability, And I thought when I had Brandon, everything just might be normal. Junior and I finally had it all. 2 daughters and 2 sons. It was like our little family was complete. But right then, hearing about that poor baby, my life just turned upside down.
Mia. From that moment on, Peter and Junior spent almost every day, all day, talking about the kidnapping. They quickly realized that the kidnapper was giving them clues. The nickname, Old Man, was strange. The ransom amount seemed off. $6.5 million is such a precise number, almost too exact. Most kidnappers ask for $10 million or some other nice round figure. $6.5 million obviously stood for something. It had to. The one person who could find out was Chapo. He practically ran Mexico, and nothing went down without him knowing.
I feel like we heard that the number seems awkward. I feel like we heard that about another ransom situation in the same story. I don't know if we heard it from Surviving El Chapo or we heard it here. But again, to them it sounds weird again. Yeah, it sounds like capping something off.
If Peter and Junior were going to get to the bottom of it, they had to fly to the mountains to see him. My husband and brother-in-law each packed a small bag and decided to head out the next morning for Culiacan. They weren't going to be gone long. They were just as worried about me and Olivia as they were about their dad. Before Peter walked out the door, he looked at me and said, "Mia, I think you should go somewhere. If this ends badly, I don't want you to be here." "I'm not going anywhere. I'm waiting for you." "Then I'll call the second I get there. I'm so sorry. This is not what I want for you. This is not the honeymoon you deserve." "Peter, it's okay," I said, lying to him. But it wasn't okay. I wasn't okay. I was sitting in a dirty hotel, realizing that loving Peter, that being married to him, wasn't just about accepting his lifestyle.
It's a lot.
It was about living through all its terrible moments, over and over and over. He kissed me hard on the lips and walked out the door. I knew he'd be fine, but for the first time since our wedding, my ideal world shattered, and I thought, why are we living like this?
Olivia, they weren't gone long, but the meeting was productive. El Chapo told them a lot more than they expected. He revealed that back in May, Uncle Pablo had dodged a meeting he was supposed to have with him.
Oh, Tío Lupe.
When the boss sends for you, you don't ignore it.
Uh-oh.
So Chapo declared Pablo his enemy and decided to tap his phone and keep him under surveillance.
Damn.
Mia. Months later, Pablo's $6.5 million debt to Chapo went unpaid. Then, Peter and Junior's dad was kidnapped under incredibly suspicious circumstances and with a $6.5 million ransom demand. While Chapo couldn't confirm that Pablo was the kidnapper, he strongly suspected he was, and he ordered Peter and Junior not to pay the kidnappers 1 penny until he investigated.
Damn right. Because he don't want to, he need them to pay him that money for whatever they got to pay him that money for. Don't go giving this money over here because I ain't waiting another day for my bread. All right, so don't give him nothing. Let me look into this.
Olivia, the kidnapper had to be Uncle Pablo. Goddamn Pablo, who'd taken Peter not even 7 months before, had snatched his dad and his baby to pay back a $6.5 million debt he owed the Sinaloa Cartel.
Wow.
That man would stop at nothing.
Mia, Chapo hadn't just ordered Junior and Peter not to pay a ransom. He'd also told us we should go back home and that he'd send someone to check on us. That person was his main sicario, or hitman, whose name was Rambo.
Y'all remember
Olivia.
Rambo? So Rambo was the character that was kind of Luca Brasi, I guess. She didn't like him, and one of my big complaints was she shouldn't have known that much about him. She skeeved him, I guess, for what she knew about him. You know what I'm saying? And I think she shouldn't have known that about him. And she would have had no reaction. he would have come off the same way he came off to everybody else that he was around under regular circumstances.
When you're the most powerful man in Mexico, you're going to have some pretty ruthless people working for you. The most dangerous of all of them was Rambo. Rambo looked like he was in his late 40s or early 50s. He was stocky and light-skinned, with super short hair and a mustache. He was always on edge, very serious, especially about his operations. As I got to know him, I could tell he didn't really trust anyone because when a new person came around, he started to actually look like a hitman, like deadly serious. Yet around Peter and Junior, he'd crack jokes. Anyone felt comfortable around them.
Mia. A few days after Peter and Junior got home, Rambo showed up with a group of men. Peter led them to the back of our house, and Junior sent Olivia and me to pick up dinner for everyone. When we got back with the food, we walked into the kitchen, which was full of about 20 sicarios, dressed head to toe in military gear. Laid out neatly on the table were the kinds of weapons I'd only seen in movies. High-capacity automatic weapons, rounds of ammo, cartridges stacked up 10 high, and grenades.
They was ready for Tio Lupe. Tio Lupe, come get some. If you want to come get some, come get some.
Scattered on the island. The men looked like they were ready for battle, and it made me sick to my stomach. This is not who Peter and Junior are, I thought to myself.
You gotta get over
It's
that.
one thing for us to have security. They're there for protection. But it's another to see an army of assassins. I realized right then that the cartels were about way more than making money.
You didn't hear what they said they was gonna do to that baby? Get it together, mama. Get it together.
They were about death and domination at all costs.
Olivia, but was that something you'd take personally? Apparently, never. While me and I were putting down the food, worried sick and slowly dying inside, Rambo turned to Peter. You know, one of my men kidnapped you in April. He's right over there. My gift to you. Rambo pointed to one of his sicarios and motioned for him to come over. The kidnapper started walking fast toward Peter, and I swear he couldn't have been more than 20. That well-dressed kid kidnapped my brother-in-law, I thought. Suddenly, Peter grabbed one of the guns off the table and pointed it at him. As the sicario froze, Mia gasped. Peter put his weapon down and began laughing. I'm just kidding, he said to his kidnapper. I know you were just doing your job. Then he took his hand and shook it. The kid gratefully hugged him, happy to still be breathing, while the entire room burst into laughter. I was shocked, but I stomached it. I don't know why someone would ever want to hug their kidnapper, but I realized it was in keeping with who Peter was. He could be upset one minute and totally forgiving the next.
I wonder how that would have changed things. It would have changed perception amongst the people around him because they hadn't seen him in a violent encounter up to that point. So if he'd have pulled the trigger, it would have changed their idea of him. They would have known he'll go there. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. They always seem to end up in the room with the feds that arrested their wives, end up in the room with this guy, end up in the room with... This is like the Forrest Gump of smuggling and trafficking stories. There's so many people involved in this.
I looked over at Mia, though, and she wasn't half as sympathetic. She had fire in her eyes. I thought to myself, seeing those 20 sicarios and their guns is horrifying to her. Worse than that, watching her husband hug his kidnapper is dredging up memories of the worst time in her life. I decided to do my best to console her. These guys are professional hitmen, Mia, I said as I pulled her into a hug. What he did to Peter wasn't personal. I know, she said, but we can't be living like this. I paused and held her tighter. I think about that every day.
Mia. Soon after Olivia and I walked out of the house and pulled ourselves together, we learned from our husbands what was happening. Apparently, Chapo had discovered from his surveillance that Pablo was back in his hometown near San Juan. Around Christmas time, there were these big carnivals called ferias that went on for weeks. Entire families, whole towns would go out to them and drink and listen to music all night. Chapo was positive that Pablo would be there. The ferias were all about pride and showing how much money you were worth. If you were Uncle Pablo, it was the kind of event you'd never dream of missing.
Olivia, still angry about Pablo skipping out on a meeting with him and eager to collect his debt, Chapo planned to send some sicarios to kidnap Pablo and his 2 sons right in front of everyone, right there at the ferias.
Eye for an eye.
Pablo was his enemy, and Chapo wanted to send him a clear message. Don't mess with the boss. The operation would be headed up by none other than Rambo. When Junior and Peter found out, they felt hurt and upset. Regardless of what Pablo had put them through, they never wished harm on anyone.
Come on, man.
His sons have nothing to do with it, they said. Rambo responded, I'm just following orders from Senor.
Period.
Less than 3 days later, the operation was complete. Chapo's men snatched Pablo and his sons at the ferias, holding them hostage and doing God knows what to them.
Mia.
I mean, they had a couple of cases against them already. You know what I mean? You snatched up that kid over there, put a debt on him, tape recorder on you. I know you lying. I call you in, like they call Lefty from Donnie Brasco. I call you in, you don't show up. When they call you in, Donnie, you go. Call you in, you don't show up. And now you snatched up the old man? But you want to go gallivanting through the carnival? I'm coming for you, bro. And everybody that's with you.
We didn't hear anything for more than 10 days after that. The phone went silent, and we thought for sure that our father-in-law and his baby were both dead. Then the kidnapper, El Comandante, called. When Peter answered the phone, it was clear that the old man wasn't giving him orders anymore. The kidnapper was practically a pussycat. I've heard so many great things about you, Mr. Flores, he said. And I'm sorry this all happened.
No, you sorry that the old man that you mouthpiecing for got snatched up. That's what you're sorry for.
Because of that, we only want $2 million now. Give that to me and I'll let your father and his son go. Peter was furious. Don't fuck with me. I'm not playing with you, so don't play with me. Bring my father and his son back now. He slammed down his phone so hard I thought he'd broken it. The kidnapper called right back. I'll take $1 million, he said. Peter looked at Junior, and together, they agreed. Even though Chapo gave them a direct order not to pay 1 penny, they had to do what was best for their family. After all, Chapo hadn't been thinking of them. He had his own agenda.
Absolutely.
Please drop the money in the black Ford Explorer at the McDonald's on 54th and Pulaski. Peter paused with his mouth wide open. In Chicago?
Right.
Yes. Then you are working for Pablo. No one else would ask for a drop-off in our city. Yes, the kidnapper said, ratting out Pablo without even a thought. Then things got weird when he continued.
But he has to know Pablo's duct tape.
But I'm actually a Mexican federal agent, and this is my side job. I'd much rather work for you and your brother. Peter hung up. He didn't even give him the dignity of an answer. In his mind, kidnappers are the lowest of the low, the toilet scrubbers and garbage men for the cartels. They're just thieves. Yep. And thieves would never work for them. People in this world will do anything for position, I thought. It's more than about money. It's about selfish power.
Olivia, the day after Peter and Junior had the ransom dropped in Chicago, their dad and his little boy came home. It had been a brutally long 3 weeks, and every horrible minute showed on my father-in-law's face. When Junior first saw him, he didn't look much different than Peter had after his kidnapping. His hair was long and unwashed, and he was covered in bruises.
Yeah, I'd expect them to not take care of the old man the same way they didn't take care of P. Now, they're that kind of animal. What are they to babies? You know what I'm saying? I guess we're about to find out.
They never let me or the baby go hungry, he told us, and they never laid a finger on him. But that wasn't much relief. The little boy couldn't stop crying, and he'd been having nightmares. He would for a long, long time.
Mia. Peter and Junior never saw Pablo again. After Rambo kidnapped him and his sons, Pablo settled his debt to Chapo by signing over $10 million in properties. Rambo then released his sons, but under Chapo's order, he executed Pablo.
That's it.
The lesson was that no one disrespects the boss.
Chickens come home
Ever.
to roost. Ever. Chapter 15. Good episode. New information. Stuff that we didn't get in Surviving El Chapo. That's dope. That's why I wanted to do this series. That's why I wanted to get into this book. For those that are looking to purchase the book, there's a link in the description. You can purchase the book in any of its forms. Audiobook, paperback, hardcover, whatever. That was new information that he had 2 families, that he got kidnapped again by Lupe. And that was it. Lupe punched his card. Chapo had enough. Enough playing with the money. Enough playing with our time. You donezo. Pete had one of the guys that snatched him up right there, dead to rights, with a barrel to his dome. And he chose an abrazo. He chose a hug. Had a line, I guess. A line that they wouldn't cross. Because guess what? If Buddy was giving him the green light for that, he would have took it. I don't think they'd have judged him foul for it. Nah, they'd have gone back to Chapo and be like, Chapo, he blazed Shorty. Put him all the way down.